Well, I have finally seen Markiplier's Iron Lung movie, and holy moly, what a movie it was. Now, as we all know, this movie has been in the works since I believe like 2023, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because if you remember, I don't know if you do remember this, but a long time ago, back in 2023 when the movie was first announced, I actually played the Iron Lung game on this channel, and I meant to do like, more parts of it because I did a part 1 video. I think it was in like April of 2023. I made that video, and I was like kind of planning on doing more parts to it, but I just didn't really understand how the game worked, to be honest. So I kind of was just like, whatever, screw it. I'll just watch the movie when it comes out. I feel like having replayed the game before the movie came out, because back when the like official release date was announced back in like December, I actually played the game and figured out how it worked. So therefore I was able to beat like the entire game. It's a pretty easy game to beat, to be honest. You just gotta follow the coordinates and then take pictures and all that. But yeah, so when it was announced that they were making a movie out of it, I was kind of just like, what? But I feel like now having played the game, I feel like you're not gonna enjoy the movie as much if you don't know the game and say you're just going in for the movie just for Markiplier because you know Markiplier because like the theater that I went to was like 80% full, which is crazy because that really only happens when you go to like a Disney movie or like a Avengers movie or something like that. Like most movies nowadays, when you go to the theater, it's only like kind of like half full or like 30% full. Like it's not really super full unless some huge movie coming out. This movie, however, like almost the entire theater was full, and I was like, damn, y'all really showed up to Iron Lung. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but originally this movie was not going to be released in Canada. It was only going to be in independent theaters in the United States, but due to a whole bunch of buzz about the movie and everything, movie theaters from around the world ended up picking it up, like Landmark Cinemas and Cineplex, which is where the theaters that are in Canada. Those are the main ones in Canada. You got Landmark Cinema or Cineplex and some other ones that I don't really remember off the top of my head. But yeah, also theaters in like the UK were picking it up, and I think Australia was picking it up as well. So yeah, due to the buzz about the movie and everything, and everyone getting really hyped about it, and it ended up getting like a worldwide release. And now having sat down and seen the movie, that shit was crazy. I'm not gonna lie because it expands way more on the lore of the movie because the video game is pretty straightforward. You get sent into this like submarine type thing where they weld you inside it and they drop you into this ocean of blood and they're like here's the coordinates, do what you gotta do. That's it. That's the whole game. Then at the end of the game, you die. So it's like, that's really it for the game. Like, there's not really much lore. Although there was like a lore update because, you find out about this quiet rapture thing and it's about how every star and planet basically just like disappeared, and the only people that were left on Earth, or like the only people that were left like in the world or like in the universe, are the people that were in space stations. Everyone else gone. They just poofed out of existence. We don't know what happened. They gone. So yeah, the only people left in the universe are people who were on space stations and basically just not on like any planets, like just people who are out in space. Those are the only people that are left. And so, there's not a lot of resources left because all the planets and all the stars have just gone. So they find this ocean of blood. And so they end up dropping this guy whose name is Simon, obviously played by Markiplier. They drop him into the ocean of blood and they're like, all right, here's some coordinates. Do what you gotta do. But it kind of expands a bit more on that because it's not really just simply, you know, they don't really have like a. It was kind of hard to tell, but I don't really think they had like the set coordinates. He was just kind of roaming around the ocean of blood, taking pictures every now and then. It wasn't really like they had a set list of coordinates for him to find, like it is in the game. So he was just kind of roaming around the ocean, taking pictures every now and then. And I feel like the music in this movie is like the best part about this movie. I feel like the music that it carries the movie in my opinion because everything it's kind of like a slow paced movie, I'm not gonna lie. Like towards the start of the movie is just him or just Markiplier in the submarine, kind of confused with what's going on. and it's kind of like that for a few minutes, and then it does this really good job of like tension building. Now, there's no action scenes. This isn't like a crazy action movie or anything like that. If you're expecting this to be an action movie, you're going to be very disappointed because this is the exact opposite of an action movie. But at the end of the day, that's totally fine because this is not meant to be an action movie. This is meant to be a thriller movie or like or like a movie that builds suspense, things like that. It is not an action movie at all. So if you're only into superhero movies, this ain't gonna be for you. I'm just gonna come out and say that right now. If superhero movies are like your thing and you don't really like anything else, you ain't gonna like this movie because there's no action in this movie, but it does a really good job of building suspense, and it does a really good job with the music. The way the music plays, I think, is, like I said, the best part about this movie. They cooked with the music because, yeah, original like it starts pretty slow, but then the music starts kicking in, and that is when like things start happening. Like the submarine shaking, and then the fish starts like hitting the submarine, or like the monster, is like hitting the submarine, and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" And there is actually other people in this movie because in the game it is literally just you. Like you, like obviously there's the voice at the start of the game where it's saying like beginning descent and all that, and you go into the ocean. But then after that, it's just you. Nobody to talk to, none of that. But in the movie, they change up a bit, which I think is the better way to go because I mean, having a whole ass movie with just Markiplier would probably be boring as hell. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, there is more people in this movie, and it does a good job of expanding the lore because the lore is pretty straightforward in the game. But I think the movie does a bit more with that. The entire movie is filmed in the submarine. Well, at least like 95% of the movie because you do kind of have like the odd flashback scene every now and then. Like obviously when Markiplier was younger, or I guess I should say when Simon was younger, it shows him as like a kid and everything, and it shows that like basically what happened to his family and stuff like that. And yeah, you do kind of have the odd like flashback scene here and there, but for the most part, entire movie is in the submarine, and it's just him trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And he obviously gets brought back up like around, I don't know, 15 or so minutes in, and then he ends up blasting them with radiation because he's pissed that they're not letting him out of the submarine. And he's like, "Oh shit, I didn't know that it was blasting you with radiation because it's an ocean of blood, right? So when you take a picture, you would just see blood. So they have to use like the X-ray radiation thing to kind of see through the ocean of blood." And one detail that I really liked is when he like pushed the camera button on the people, it showed their skeletons, right? Like it didn't show just them; it shows their skeletons. So I think that means that when you like take a picture and you see the skeleton of a fish, that's like a real alive fish. It's not just like a skeleton of a fish. Because when I was playing the game and I would take a picture and I would see the skeleton, I would be like, "Oh, that's a skeleton of a fish." And I kind of assumed that, it was a dead skeleton of a fish. But no, when you take a picture and you see the skeleton of a fish, that is a real live skeleton, or that's a real, live fish, and that's just the skeleton of the fish that it shows because of the X-ray. And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of a cool detail that they added in there." But yeah, he blasts them with radiation because they don't let him out of the submarine, and so he's kind of like, "Oh shit, my bad." And I literally swear to God, like 2 minutes into this movie, bro's already saying the F word because this movie is rated R. So yeah, they swear a lot in the movie. But yeah, like I said earlier, the game is pretty straightforward because at the end of the game, as you're going to like take the final picture, obviously you die before you can do that. But in the movie, it's kind of different. Like they kind of change it up. I kind of do like that because you have the scene of like the blood kind of like shooting into the submarine, and then you have this like crazy scene of like Markiplier is like looking around and there's like lightning and everything. It's not really exactly how it was in the one trailer because there is one trailer for the Iron Lung movie where he's like, coming out of the ocean of blood and there's like lightning and everything and he turns around to the camera. It's not that scene. It's kind of similar, but it's different in its entirety because the ocean of blood comes into the submarine and then you get the scene of him rising from the ocean of blood, and then he's like looking around, and there's like these voices that are in his head, and then he ends up back in the submarine, and you're like, oh, what's happening? And you kind of, or even he kind of starts questioning what is real and what's not real, because there's this one woman who he's talking to, and then she tells him, or she tells him his name, and then he's like, I never told you my name. And then she's like, yes, you did. And then, yeah, crazy shit starts happening. And then later on, he eventually figures out that it is real and it's not fake, because the woman starts calling him again. And then he's like, this cord is broken. You shouldn't be talking to me. And he goes to like show that the cord's broken, but it's actually fixed now. And so he's like, oh, all right then, I guess the cord is fixed now. So then he's like, okay, this is real. So yeah, that they end up talking to each other. And there's one scene in particular that I thought was absolutely hilarious, and it got the entire audience laughing. It's like he ends up finding the submarine that's like called the SM-8, and so he, you know, tells the girl that's on like the phone that like, hey, I got this, or I found this submarine thing, and then she's like, how do you know it's the SM-8? And he looks and he's like, because I can read. And that I just found that pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie, and yeah, the whole audience got a laugh out of that. That was pretty funny. But the ending, holy moly, the ending of this movie went crazy, because, as we all know, when you take the, or before you take the final picture in the game, you die. That is not how it is in the movie. The movie takes it like to the next level, or like to like 10, not even 10, like 1,000, because the ocean, or like the blood starts pouring into the submarine, and he's obviously trying to not die, and so he's like, there's this black box that he has to like find in the SM-8 submarine, and he has to get that back to the people at the space station, obviously, or he has to like keep it safe. And so as like the blood is pouring into the submarine, he's like trying to make sure that the box is safe, and then he realizes that he's cooked. He ain't coming back, because they said that, or the woman told him that if you find the black box and you keep it safe, then you'll earn your freedom. And so he's trying to keep this box safe and everything, and then he sees the monster. He sees like the eye of the monster and everything, and so he's like, all right, fuck it, just like come at me. And yeah, the ship ends up getting eaten. Yeah, it's not exactly done how it is in the games, and I appreciate that, because in the game the monster breaks through the submarine and then basically eats the player. But in the movie it is done like 3 times more crazy, I'm not gonna lie, because literally it's like the monster is like this giant like demon creature. It's not just like this mini like tiny monster that it is in the games. It's like this huge creature, and it just like swallows the submarine whole. And you're just like, or not even swallow the submarine, it like crushes the submarine, and you're just like, damn. Because the entire time or like the entire time the blood's like pouring into the submarine, he gets like trapped in like these like blood vine thingies, and so he's trying to escape, and then he ends up pulling off his arm, and then he's like, well, shit, I'm dead. And then, yeah, he ends up getting eaten by the creature. But luckily for him, the black box is still okay, because the black box contains the data of how to, save the Quiet Rapture and things like that, and how to save humanity. Because that was in the SM-8 submarine, it was like this stuff on how to save humanity, and that is why they needed the black box, so that they can, save humanity. And so Markiplier gets eaten by the fish, but the black box still ends up being okay, because right after, the fish eats the submarine, we see the black box rise from the flood of ocean, and then it's just kind of floating around at the top of the ocean. So the black box is still okay. So maybe there's a chance that humanity could be saved. But Markiplier, he's cooked. But yeah, I really did enjoy this movie. But like I said, if you don't know anything about the games or anything like that, it's kind of like a Five Nights at Freddy's 2 situation, where if you don't know the games, you're not going to get a kick out of this movie, because it's very kind of slow-paced movie. But I appreciate that they went that route, because I feel like if they, tried to do something too different, it might, you know, It might just kind of alienate the people who played the games. But this is a pretty faithful adaptation, I'm not gonna lie. And I did enjoy it. And like I said, music, best part about this movie. Easily the best part about this movie. If it wasn't for the music, I don't think I would have enjoyed this movie as much, especially towards the end when the music's like really kicking in. I really got a kick out of that. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this review. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I think I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10. I thought it was pretty dang solid, and I guess technically it is the best movie I've seen in 2026 because it is the only new movie I've seen in 2026 so far. Because have been to the theater, but the last time I went was for the 20th anniversary of Madagascar. So, that's not really a new movie. So I guess as of right now, this is the best movie I've seen in 2026. But yeah, overall, I think it's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Let me know if you have seen the Iron Lung movie and what you thought of it. Like I said, I thought it was pretty crazy, and I like that they expanded the lore and all that. And I dug it at the end of the day. That's all I can say. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for this video. We are only 40 subscribers away from 700. We're at 660. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. And you guys can let me know if maybe you want me to play the rest of Iron Lung, because I did start it back in 2023. Never really finished it, but I did end up finishing it back in December. But maybe I can play it again if that is something that you guys want me to do. But that's gonna wrap it up for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.